All right, I'm live here with AWS CodeWhisperer, which is an AWS-based coding assistant. And I wanted to tweak things up a little bit here by getting into Amazon Code Catalyst, which is in some sense a competitor to GitHub Codespaces. So it has a lot of the same capabilities. You can do a cloud-based development environment. There are some key differences as well, but you can use this cloud-based development environment inside of the Amazon Code Catalyst and also really get this integrated experience. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, and let's go ahead and take a look. So we've got Amazon Code Catalyst, Unified Software Development Service. And what's interesting is that all of these tools, so the CodeWhisperer as well as Code Catalyst, have this AWS Builder ID associated with it, which is pretty cool because it means that you can use it for free. And you can see even this, the free tier here is pretty generous in that you don't even have to be a student, etc. You actually get a lot of free compute capabilities here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Spaces here where I've already got something. And if we look at this, you can see that I've actually enabled the ability to do more things than just the free tier here. I've actually upgraded to a standard tier, which means that I can actually launch big machines essentially, which is pretty cool. So let's take a look here at this test scratch section here, and we can see that I could, if I wanted to, resume this in Visual Studio Code, or if we go to this other environment here, the other thing that I could do is I can actually set things up inside of Cloud9. So I think it'll be more fun to nuke this and to recreate it. So let's go ahead and go here and let's delete it. So I'm going to go ahead and say delete. And then what I'm going to do next here is that I'm going to create a dev environment. So look at the options that we've got. So we've got the ability to do AWS Cloud9 in the browser, Visual Studio Code locally that proxies into this, which is pretty cool. And then we also have JetBrains IDEs here as well. So we have IntelliJ, Golang, PyCharm, etc. So I think the Cloud9 is really one of the kind of unique ones because it's browser based. So I'm going to go ahead and select this, and then what it's going to do is going to ask me to, clone a repo. So I'll clone one that I've already got hooked up. So you can actually get GitHub native integration in here as well. And then now notice where it says dev environment, I'm actually gonna basically make this thing more powerful. So I'm gonna go to extra large here, and you can see we have 16 vCPUs, 32 gigs of RAM. Now, it would be amazing if they actually had the ability to have GPU as well. Hopefully they'll do that in the future, but still, this is a great development environment. Okay, let's go ahead and do this next and get this thing cooking. All right, so we've got this thing spinning up here. And this will take just a second. And because I mostly program in Rust, what I'm going to do is actually get Rust installed here as well, which I think will be nice. So notice here that you can also get AWS Toolkit installed, which means that you can actually have integration with AWS. But for now, I'm going to just click on this button. And the one I care about the most is CodeWhisperer, right? So if I click on Start, it's going to say this requires access to your builder ID. So we're going to go ahead and say OK. And then I'm going to go ahead and auth to it. And we'll paste this in and continue. And now what it's going to do is it's going to let me use CodeWhisperer inside of this Cloud9 environment. Now, the first thing that we'll need to do is actually, because I want to get Rust working, is do a Rust C. And notice it's not there. So easy to fix, though, with Rust. All you have to do is go to Rust Up. And we can see here, I can't imagine an easier way to install a language. this really does beat even scripting languages here, right? Because I just copy this and I go back to my environment and I just paste it in. So if you're wondering about how to install Rust, very easy, right? You just run this command and just say yes. And what it's going to do is it's going to install the whole tool chain, including the linter, the documentation, etc. So it really is a powerful setup here initially. And then if we go here, all I have to do is just run this once. I mean, I could even source my bash RC to get it running. But basically, there we go. So now if I go to Rust, we see that Rust is actually installed. Now, if we go back into the file system here, notice that I've got a checkout where I had some previous code examples. So I'm going to actually cd into there. You can see these different examples here. Now, one thing that would be kind of cool is to make this environment a little bit bigger. I don't know if there's an easy way to do that. It's a little bit annoying how small it is, but user settings, maximum depth. Anyway, there's probably a way to make this thing a little bit bigger, maybe by going view and going to layout, font size, increase font size. See, it's grayed out here, which is kind of weird. Syntax, I mean, I guess we could shift down here to Rust. But yeah, not sure why a lot of things here don't seem to be totally fleshed out. Maybe this still is kind of a beta environment, but really the thing that we care about is, can we do anything with Rust here? So, and CodeWhisperer, because we know CodeWhisperer is running. So I think maybe like starting in a very basic way in this environment would be the way to go. So if I just type in cargo new, we can say hello CW, which is hello CodeWhisperer. And then if I cd into there, what we should be able to see is, in fact, the basic structure of our project. So this is nice, right? It has some nice syntax highlighting here. And then if we go to the main, we see that, in fact, we've got that code. Now, again, it's a little bit wonky because I wish that it was easier to make this thing. Oh, there we go. I guess I can make, there we go. I think we can make it a little bit bigger. That looks a lot better here. So we've got this a little bit bigger here as well, but let's test out some of the things that you can do with CodeWhisperer inside of Cloud 9, inside of Code Catalyst. So to start with, we could do a multi-line block here. So we could say, how about let's build a Marco Polo function that gets called by fn main. So we would potentially want to comment this out for a second, and let's see how much code completion is possible with CodeWhisperer. So I think it's always a good idea to create as much context as possible, but also to know the language enough that you can actually guide it in the right direction. So we could say here, Marco, and then if I start auto-completing here, we're going to need an input. Now, it doesn't, for whatever reason, it seems like I'm not getting the suggestions here. So let's double check. And there we go. It was turned off. So also make sure that for whatever reason, if it was turned off, it's actually turned back on again. So let's go ahead and say fn, there we go, Marco. And so we're going to actually need to take an input into this function. So it's going to be name, would be a string. So this is where I think the code completion can really be helpful, because the power of a language like Rust is these rich types, but a lot of times it's verbose to type them all out. And this is one of the advantages here, is that it will actually do it for us. Now we want to, we could even be smart here and say like takes a string and returns a string. How about that? So if we do this, we could potentially see if it will guide us to being a little smarter here, because we can say name string. There we go. So this is kind of nice because I logically know what it is I want to write, right? I know that Rust has great types, but maybe I don't want to type all that. And so in this situation, you can make the argument that in fact, English is more succinct than the code, and then it generates the code that I need, which I think is going to be something we're going to see in the future with programming, is you'll see a lot of this kind of style. Now it says format here, hello, but again, you can't blindly accept everything that it's going to tell you. You have to be really careful about the logic. So in this case, I want to say if the name is going to equal Marco, then we would want to return Polo. Otherwise, we would actually want to return back a block of something else. Sure, who are you? I like that. And then if we look at the closeout here, we're missing one bracket, so we would want one more. Now, one of the nice things about CodeWhisperer is that it does have a lot of the same capabilities as other coding assistants. And also, if we go back to here, I could just copy one of my make files if I have one from another project. I guess I don't see one here, but I like to. I guess I'm addicted to make files, so I like to make files. And I'm going to do touch make file here, just so I can remember all the commands. So I'm going to go to another repo I have that I can copy the make file. And we're going to go to data. Here we go. Let's get this data engineering. I have a make file in here that's probably good. Sure, let's grab that. And we'll go back here. We'll go to the make file and we'll paste it in. Now, this will get you. This will get a lot of people, is that and this is one of the problems with cutting and pasting, is that you need to know what you're doing. In this case, we actually want to use tabs with make files. If you use spaces, chaos ensues. So the reason I would like this is that, it's not because I'm necessarily obsessed with makefile per se. It's that I'm lazy and I don't want to type in these flags, right? So in this case, I just want to type in make format, right? So whenever I'm getting suggestions from generative AI in particular, I think it's a good idea to be really doing a lot of formatting so that your code is formatted correctly. And then we're pretty much ready to run this thing. We could also do a make lint, double check if there's some weird stuff. Well, unneeded return statement. Well, because we're not calling it, right? So that does actually make sense. So we need to call our function, and this is, in fact, one of the beautiful things about the Rust language, is that in other languages you could do anything you want, but it wouldn't make sense to do anything you want because your code wouldn't do anything. In this case, it's explicitly telling us, hey, you have an incomplete train of logic. You need to fix this. So let's do it. So we just go through here, and what we could do is we could pass in Marco, and we could just type in Marco, right? So we could pass this in, and we could put a semicolon there. And we could say make format, make lint, and in this case, though, it's also giving us still the same issue, because I'm not sure why actually it would be giving us that issue, but let's see. Let's just say, like, let results equal Marco, and we can say print the result. This should be better. Let's just try cargo run here. Let's see what we got. So yeah, I'm not sure why that lint is having issues. Oh, other than, I guess, if we go to, let's look at the lint again. So it says remove return. I guess it's because in Rust, is it that returns are implicit, like Erlang? So let's double check this, and let's do make lint expected string. Huh? Yeah, I'm not sure. That's an interesting error though that I'm getting. Cargo run. We know it runs, but the lint has a problem. If I scroll up higher here, it says unneeded return state. So it looks like it's only unneeded. Very interesting. Yeah, maybe the scope is. Yeah, not sure, but I mean, I think generally you want to respect the linter. Now, what we could do, this shows a little bit of maybe the limitations of CodeWhisperer, which I think is getting better at Rust. What we could do is go here, and we could go to Anthropic, maybe. Let's try that, and let's try a new, let's do a new chat here, and let's just say, I need some help with my Rust code. And then what we could do, so we could kind of merge multiple tools together. So first we give it the code, and we go here. Here is my main.rs, that, and then we give it the lint command. And we could even go from here, make lint, and we could go all the way down. And let's see what this coding assistant tells us. I think this is a new technique here, which is that you can try to merge. Oh, okay. So it can tell me what remove unnecessary return statements. Is that because I suppose, which I'm still not an expert in Rust. I'm learning still, but a lot of languages like Erlang, for example, they have implicit returns. So I think what's happening is CodeWhisperer is giving us a bad suggestion. So we have to actually counteract this. Now they're saying there's two different issues. One is that if else is clumsy in any language, but the other one is a match is more pleasant. And in fact, use a match instead of if else. That's a bit more idiomatic Rust, which I think is a good suggestion. So let's go back here. Let's fix this thing. And there we go. Look at that. That's nice. Now if I go and I say make format here, excellent. And if I say make lint, excellent. So, I mean, I think my opinion with these emerging tools is that A, you should never blindly trust them. B, if one tool is good, two is probably better. So you can actually combine both of them and even learn something at the same time, because now it's like, oh, okay, well, I shouldn't write if else statements. I should do matches instead, because it's a lot more elegant to actually build a match. Now, what is interesting though here is this really what I want though? Because let's say that let's reload this. Let's say that I change this Bob, then I wouldn't get the result, right? Because in this case, it's throwing away the value. So let's just double check here. And if I say make lint, it's kind of, did this work? Who are you? Oh, okay. So I guess I was under the impression this would throw it away, but I guess this is just some kind of magical match here that is able to work anyway. So cool. Okay. And then if we go to Claude, what else is it saying? It's saying consider using a constant as well for this avoids duplicating the string literal as well. Huh, interesting. So let's try that out. Yeah, I guess so. That makes sense. That makes sense here, right? So we would go through here, and then we would say Well, I don't know though, because we're calling it down here. I'm not sure if that's exactly what I want, but we could do this. Say Marco. Try that. We could do make format, make lint, and cargo run. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to build a little toy thing like this, but I think this not bad, not bad. So I'm going to go ahead and check this in, and we'll say git add hello. So I think the issue with CodeWhisperer adding Marco example, I think the issue here is that it doesn't feel like it has extremely robust. Well, so I guess maybe I don't have GitHub configured properly, which I don't really care about actually. But it looks like one of the issues with GitHub, I'm sorry, with CodeWhisperer is that it doesn't necessarily have the multi-line completion capabilities yet, and maybe even it would be better to use like a pair programming tool like Claude with CodeWhisperer. So let's try that next. Let's do one more thing. Let's try to get at least into a little bit of trouble because that was almost too smooth. Let's try to build one more thing, and we can just do, I don't know, like a calculator. So I'm going to say cargo new, and we can say calc. I'm going to cd into there, copy my makefile so I can have a lazy environment. And then if we go into this calc, I can say, I need you to build a simple calculator in main.rs. All right. I don't know if I like that one, but I'm gonna say, yeah, that's too much. I don't like that example. So I have to guide it and tell it something different. So I'm gonna say, I don't like this approach. I want you to help me build a function for each, i.e. add, subtract, multiply, divide, then run it all together in main RS. So while it's generating, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here. So I'm going to use two tools simultaneously. I'm going to go here. I'm going to say basically a line comment, a series of functions that act as a calculator, right? Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Here we go. And then if we go back here, let's see what we got here. So this looks pretty good, right? So this actually might be like a better experience for CodeWhisperer, because from what I've been told about CodeWhisperer, the more code you have, the better the suggestions are going to be. So maybe it's not like a super creative tool. It's more like it's a tool that's helpful if you already have some stuff. So this looks, I mean, logical, right? Like you have an X and a Y, X and a Y, X and a Y, and you just do some simple calculations. So then now I'm curious if how smart this would be now, because I already seeded it with some logic. So if I said here, I would say like let's run each of these operations using 2 and 3, using or how about using small numbers. Okay, so let's see how smart CodeWhisperer is. So if I go here, now it doesn't know how to use the context here to actually build things out. So we can say, let x equal 10, let y equals 5. That's pretty good. Let z equal the result of add. Yeah, so it's basically giving me one-line suggestions, and then we just print them all out. So we have z, a, b, c, z, but it's missing. Oh, okay, or it's doing x and y and z. Yeah, we can do that. We can say, but let's just tweak it, and we'll just say add. That looks good. Subtract. Right. So again, I think the more like, so kind of the way I'm guiding it, it seems like the better it's going to do. Now we can actually double check. If we type in make format, looks good. Make lint, passes lint, cargo run, should give us, there we go. So I think this could be the sweet spot with a tool like CodeWhisperer, is it appears to be very safe and like conservative the way it gives you suggestions, which is not bad actually. And so maybe you get your ideas through your own intuition, or you get your ideas through a tool like Claude, and then you combine those together. So I think really in a nutshell here, there is a lot of competition in the generative AI coding space. And so don't get caught up in the hype. I think you should try out lots of different ideas and merge them. So this is a great experiment for today, and I'll do it again next week.